a sweet potato pie? Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get to Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food, Henry's soul food. What do we need? Soul food. Henry's soul food.
Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, brought to you by Golden Crust Bakery, the fastest growing Caribbean-owned franchise in the United States. Golden Crust is committed to the delivery of quality food and excellent customer service. Visit them today at goldencrustbakery.com. In accordance with President Obama's Affordable Care Act, you will be required by law to have a health insurance policy within the next few months. Have you been able to find a policy that fits your budget? Do you understand that you will be forced to find health care? If you do not lock in your low rate now, you will be forced to pay a much higher premium later on. Yes. Logan, are you prepared for affordable care?
Armstrong, affordable care is anything but affordable care, especially if you are a young person and you want a catastrophic policy. Your premiums are going to go up substantially. Now, on the other hand, if you are an older person and you have health issues, you will find that your premiums will decline. The unfortunate thing about that is that we're asking young people to subsidize old people, and young people just starting out have high unemployment rates. They don't make as much as older people, and from my point of view, it does not seem fair to burden young people with the health cost of older people, who've had a lifetime to sort of accumulate their earnings, and so it just doesn't seem right to me. These are young people trying to start out with families, and they're being burdened with very high cost.
Well, are you implying then that senior citizens should subsidize young people?
No, I don't think senior citizens should subsidize young people, but I don't think that young people should subsidize senior citizens either.
But it makes more sense that young people subsidize the old.
Well, why does it make more sense for a young person? Let's take a hypothetical case, a 25-year-old man who just got married. He's trying to put money together to buy a house. He has a wife with a baby on the way, and he's got a few $1,000s in the bank trying to save. Why does it make sense for him to subsidize a 55-year-old who has a $300,000 house with maybe a $50,000 mortgage and $100,000 in the bank? That makes sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me.
I'm not saying that it makes sense, but I'm just saying that seniors have lived. They're our golden class. They've earned the respect. But listen, will the premiums soar in your estimation?
I think the reason the premiums will go up for many people are two reasons. One is that they are going to be forced to have richer policies than they might otherwise want. I'll give you a couple of examples. If you want to have a health insurance policy which excludes psychiatric care, pregnancy, birth control, you can't get that policy. If you want a policy that has a very high deductible for a catastrophe, you can't buy that policy. Okay? So if you're one of those people, and there are especially young people who fit in that category, but also older people, you're...
Logan? Did we lose Logan? Michael, are you still there? 1-866-620-6620. Obviously, it sound like a little outage. We'll get it right. Do you really believe that old people should subsidize young people when it comes to affordable care? Do you think that they should subsidize young people? Or do you think it's unfair for young people to carry the brunt of the burden for the old, the aged in our society? I think that's what senior citizens live for. They deserve to be taken care of. They deserve to be treated with the utmost respect and honor. Absolutely. There is no question in my mind that they deserve it. 1-866-620-6620. We're waiting on Logan to pop back up on the screen. Michael, what would you like to add to this?
Well, it's funny. The other expense that no one's talking about are the student loans that young Americans, or even, I guess, when they become middle-aged Americans, will still be paying off, looking for jobs that are paying less. It's just such a perfect storm. High unemployment rate, high under-involvement of American workers in the labor force. I think they're saying that it's the lowest in 37 years, worker participation in the labor force. And now suddenly a program that they call the Affordable Health Care Act. It's funny. It reminds me of a George Orwell quote when he said political language is designed to make lies sound truthful, murder respectable, and to give an appearance of solidity to pure wind. What is affordable? When in New York where I am, the rates are probably going to be about the same or go a bit lower, but we're very high here already. But everything I've read, Armstrong, is that across the country, the average American will be paying lots more for health insurance, and we're having a crisis finding enough doctors. Hospitals are going bankrupt. The system is disintegrating around our ears, don't you think?
One could take that perspective. Let me go to is Logan back? Where's Logan?
He got lost.
Oh, come on now. Mike, you have a comment.
Well, I do have
No, it's a caller.
And,
It's our caller. Mike, it's our caller. Mike, our caller. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was talking about, the older people going to subsidize, the young people going to subsidize the older people. But how does Social Security work? And then he was talking about, it's not going to be fair. Now, see, here's the hypocrisy that I see with a lot of right-wing conservatives. He's talking about fairness now. Now, minorities talk about fairness all the time. Fairness is relative. I just can't believe that, they put out, and your other caller, he was talking about New York and the rates up there and everything that he's read is saying that people are going to be paying substantially more. I heard this morning on the Wall Street Journal report that they reported that a lot of people are going to be paying less than they anticipated. And substantially less than they anticipated. So the problem that I have is it's too early to tell, Armstrong. I'm not abreast of the program to speak educated. In an educated fashion on it. But I don't think you dare start either. I think we have to wait 2 or 3 years because whether the program is good or not is really going to be relative to my situation. Now, if we want to talk about so-called fairness, then you let me know how are you going to write any kind of policy or make any kind of legislation when you have the extremely poor on one end of the spectrum, the extremely rich on the other end of the spectrum, and then everybody else in between. How is it going to be? How are you going to come up with a panacea that's going to be so-called fair to everyone? The truth of the matter is, Armstrong, I'm going to say this in closing. The truth of the matter is, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. You're going to have some stories out there where people are going to complain and they're going to have problems with getting benefits and health care. But then you're also going to have stories out there where if we didn't have this plan, that people would not have been able to get benefits. So I take the wait and see approach, and the hypocrisy with the conservatives and the right wingers is just ridiculous to me and outlandish.
Well, Michael?
Well, I don't know how I became a conservative. I'm a lifelong Democrat. And the point I said is that in New York they expect the rates to go down, but everything that I've been reading thus far is they expect it will go up around the country. You know what bothers me, I think, the most about the so-called Affordable Health Care Act, Armstrong, is the way it was sold to us. I still can't get that image of Nancy Pelosi out of my head, standing in front of the forest of microphones at the news conference, saying that we wouldn't know what was in the bill until after it was voted for. I don't know of any consumer advocate that would suggest you buy a major appliance or a car or a head of lettuce without being able to look at whatever it is you're buying before you buy it. And the kind of arrogance we've seen from both sides of the political aisle in dealing with American citizens really calls into question what passes for representative government today.
Wow. Did I call him Mike Leavers?
No, I'm still here. Also, why don't we ever talk about that gift that George Bush wrapped up and left for us? The gift that keeps on giving, the prescription drug program. Why aren't the conservatives ever talking about that? Why aren't we talking about the $9 trillion that were lost, that they just reported that were lost by the Federal Reserve that they can't track? Why aren't we talking about those $9 trillion? Do you know how many people can benefit from those $9 trillion? It's really about money.
Listen,
about
thank you,
people.
Mike. Well, thank you.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Crust's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Crust near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrustBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make $100 million or $10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea,
Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the show. Logan, you were saying before somehow or another you disappeared in thin air?
Yeah, I'm not sure where I got cut off, but what I was saying is that there are a couple of reasons why premiums are going to go up. Number one is if you are a person who wants a catastrophic policy or wants items that you're required to buy. For example, you must have pretty much a gold-plated policy if you buy under Obamacare. You can't have a bare-bones catastrophic policy. You have to have things like psychiatric care, abortions, medical, contraceptions, so forth. If you don't want that, you have to pay for it anyway. And so it raises your cost. If you want high deductibles and you can't have the high deductibles, you have to pay for more deductible than you want or less deductible than you want. So in that sense, the policies are not geared to you having the kind of policy that you want. And the second thing is, what we were originally talking about, which is community rating, which means that young people end up subsidizing older people and healthy people end up subsidizing unhealthy people.
Michael?
Yes. Well, again, I think what we're really seeing, and it's funny because I'm a liberal and, I've always thought government has a job to do. It just seems that the government is getting its nose into more and more and more aspects of our private lives, down to from diet to health care. It's becoming more and more intrusive, and we always prided ourselves in America of keeping the government at bay, that it wouldn't get involved in our day-to-day life. I think 100 years ago, the federal government's impact on our day-to-day lives was minimal. You had the post office, you had a couple of agencies, you hoped that the military did their job effectively to keep us safe, and that was pretty much what the federal government did. Think of how it now intrudes on just about every phase of our lives. Am I getting this wrong, Logan?
I agree 100% with you on that.
And it's disturbing because, yes, we do need to have health care for people. We certainly don't want people dying in the street, and, we need to do something.
Well,
but doing something doesn't mean do the wrong thing, and I think we consistently see the federal government do the wrong thing, either overreach or come up with wacky ideas that they shove down our throats whether we like it or not.
One of the things, this was a total overhaul of the medical system, which is, I think, 1/6 of the economy, to take care of a problem of about 15% of the population that was uninsured. Of that 15% that was uninsured, probably half of them could afford insurance if they wanted to, but decided for reasons known to only themselves that they didn't want it. So you had about 7% of the population that was uninsured. Would it not have been easier to deal with helping those people get insurance without forcing the rest of America to buy insurance policies that they may not like, they may not want?
It's funny because one of my buddies, back when I was an agent, and I was an agent for 30 years, and one of my buddies had a big sign hanging on the wall next to his desk. We all had our little cartoon signs up, and his said that the difference between the private sector and government is that in the private sector, people are rewarded for finding simple solutions to complex problems, where in the government you're rewarded for finding complex solutions to simple problems. How do you like that?
Well, I think that's exactly what's happened with Obamacare, and there are a lot of unintended consequences. For example, unions tend to have very good policies that they've negotiated over the years. Yep. But under Obamacare, there's a Cadillac tax that these unions are going to be subject to, and the unions are saying, hey, wait a minute, we don't think we want this Obamacare if you're going to tax us and basically take away some of the rights that we've bargained for.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's very few winners here except for that small percent or the folks with pre-existing conditions who've lost coverage, and I think that's a tough situation. I've lost family members to cancer, but this isn't the way to deal with it, though.
Yeah, there are simpler ways to deal with that, and rather than writing a bill that is thousands of pages long that nobody read until after the bill was passed, we probably should have broken this up and trying to take care of the small problems. It's the way you eat an elephant. You don't eat an elephant in one bite. You do it one bite at a time. It's not one big bite where you eat the whole thing and swallow it.
But it's funny because I have to quote George Orwell again. He has a great way of describing it. He said in certain kinds of writings, particularly in the art of literary criticism and so forth, he said long passages are often almost always lacking in meaning. And when you look at how many pages were in the bill, nobody could digest that bill, not even the people who wrote it. So you look at that kind of complexity of language. It's just like when you try to do your taxes. They did a study not long ago where they called the IRS, some reporters did this, with a tax return. And they called up 5 representatives that the IRS offer on a helpline and got 5 different answers from 5 different employees telling them they owed 5 different rates of tax. So when you have that kind of lunacy passing for what should be coherent law, where taxes or health care or any other issues are concerned, what in the world are we really creating besides a Frankenstein?
Well, I want to tell you, while we talk about all the deficiencies of affordable care, Logan, what are some of the bright sides of it? Some of the things that it will do, especially with pre-existing conditions?
Well, look, if you were unable to get insurance before, you can get insurance now if you had a pre-existing condition. That is a positive, but maybe it's not a positive because somebody who had a pre-existing condition maybe should have gotten insurance when they were much younger and gotten and paid into the system, and that is what the this is trying to do. It's trying to make people who are considered in economic terms freeloaders who have a medical condition, they can't get insurance, and then they just sort of show up at the hospital when they're sick and they get taken care of. To eliminate those freeloaders. But I think this is just a very awkward way of doing it. I see very few benefits that come out of Obamacare. I mean, I can list what they will tell you. One is the problem of people with pre-existing conditions, and the second is helping uninsured people. But I think the way to do that would have been a more rifle shot approach, saying people who have pre-existing conditions, we will somehow subsidize them, through the government, rather than asking other insurance people, other people who have medical insurance to subsidize the sick.
And
positions.
And what's interesting is, in order to bring down the cost, because now government is involved, we're getting the government, like Mayor Bloomberg in New York. Thank God his term is almost up. I've had enough of this guy.
Be thankful. Be careful what you wish for. You may get something.
Yeah, you're right. My father used to say, "Nothing is so good it couldn't be better, or so bad it couldn't be worse." Yeah. I just want different at this point. But this is the guy that was trying to limit the big gulp drinks and that kind of nonsense. And it's all about dollars and cents. Believe me, this guy doesn't care about people's health. He cares about the bottom line, because for most of these characters, that's what this is all about, the bottom line. So it's more intrusion into the food we eat and everything. We should eat healthy, but I don't want the mayor of my town telling me what I can order or not order when I walk into a burger joint.
Yeah, but you know what, Logan, let me come back to this issue, and we'll come back to it. What have we learned in the aftermath of the Navy Yard shooting? I saw the video today of the assailant, and I'm telling you, it was chilling seeing him run around that Navy Yard in that building with that gun hunting down people. It was chilling.
Well, one of the things that we learn is that the basic issue here is one of crazy people. Okay, this is not an issue. If you look at most of the mass murders by individuals in the United States over the past 20 or 30 years, these people have had serious psychological problems for reasons which we can all understand. Courts have been reluctant to take people who have psychological problems and put controls on what they can do. But the fact is that crazy people, and that may not be the PC term today, but crazy people do crazy things. They take guns. I believe this guy had a shotgun. It's not like he had an AK-40, you know.
Right. He had a shotgun, then he cut it down, apparently.
Yeah. This is what Biden told everybody to go out and get if they wanted to protect themselves with a gun. But anyway.
Well, obviously this guy was listening.
Yeah, this guy was listening. Okay. But the problem is, how do we deal with people who have psychological problems that are dangerous to themselves and to other people? And we haven't really been able to do that and figure that out. The second thing that has resulted from this, or the second lesson, is that we have major gaps in security in the government.
Yep.
Now, it's not just here where this guy got clearance, but it's in Snowden. The clearance that he got, which could be a major security breach. We have to look at our security clearance process. Look at the guy at Fort Hood, the doctor. Hassan. Yeah.
Major Hassan, yes.
And do you know the same security? You know the same security that vetted Snowden, vetted Aaron?
Yep.
Yeah.
USIS.
Scary.
It is scary.
And that's the bell. We'll be back.
Hi, Mike Reagan here. The president has just delayed his Obamacare employee mandate for 1 year. But nothing has changed. The Congressional Budget Office still predicts 7 million Americans will lose their current insurance, and thousands of rules are being implemented today. Obamacare is over 20,000 pages, almost 3 times longer than the whole IRS tax code. Worse, the IRS is now in charge of enforcing the law. You need to protect yourself, your family, and your business with the easy-to-read guide. It's called the Obamacare Survival Guide. Already a #1 New York Times bestseller, Newsmax calls it the best guide to the new law. Get the Obamacare Survival Guide today at bookstores everywhere, or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price by going now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Logan, tell us how relevant and important is the Federal Reserve?
Well, the Federal Reserve today is very much in control of our money supply and indirectly in control of the health of the economy and financial markets. Now, should it be this way? Probably not. A lot of people would argue against the Federal Reserve, but it is, in fact, they regulate most banking and financial institutions in America today. They can increase the supply of money that will control inflation. It will control interest rates. It will control the health of the economy and indirectly affect the stock and the bond markets. The Federal Reserve also has, there's an underside to all this. Everybody's been complaining over the last 5 years that this has been a recovery where the rich have recovered and the poor have not, the middle class have not. And one of the reasons for this is that the Federal Reserve has created asset bubbles. In other words, they've printed a lot of money. And when they print this money, most of that money goes into the stock market, which has increased stock prices, or goes into the bond market and has increased bond market. So we've had a bull market over the last several years because the Fed has been pumping all this money into the financial sector and driving the prices of assets up. Now, wealthy people tend to own stocks and bonds and real estate at a much higher level than middle-class people and low-income people. So what you found happening over the last several years is that the income going to the upper quintile, the higher income people with more assets, tended to increase much more than those people who were low-income people. And so you've had an increasing disparity between the rich and the poor, and much of that disparity was subsidized by the Federal Reserve.
And what was interesting, if I could just chime in, is that they've made the point that the recession ended in 2009, and they based it on the stock market. Meanwhile, the foreclosure rate and non-involvement by workers in the labor pool was going in the opposite direction. So simply using the price of the stock market or the value of stocks in the stock market as the metric to determine whether or not we were out of the financial woods further, I think, alienated American middle class and American poor people from the government and from the economy of the United States. Would you disagree?
No, not at all. The way you define a recession is it's at least 2 consecutive quarters where the gross domestic product declines.
Right.
Now, we had some serious decline in 2008. Unfortunately, on a per-family basis, in terms of per-family income, most Americans are not where they were back in 2007, 2008. So while we may technically have been out of a recession in 2009, it's been a very painful recovery because it's been so slow, and most people haven't made up for what they lost over the last 4 or 5 years.
By the way, Armstrong, if I can, I was going to say something before the commercial break. I hate to do this, but I just wanted to jump back real quickly to the shooting incident and the lack of security where the military is concerned, if we can do that just for a moment.
Go right ahead.
There was a passage in the 9/11 Commission report, and in fact I wrote about this for CAPS, Californians for Population Stabilization. You can find it at capsweb.org. This blew my mind. As early as December 1993, a team of al-Qaeda operatives had begun casing targets in Nairobi, Kenya for future attacks. This is when they attacked the embassy. It was led by Ali Muhammad, a former Egyptian army officer who had moved to the United States in the mid-1980s, enlisted in the U.S. Army, became an instructor at Fort Bragg. He provided guidance and training to extremists at the Farouk Mosque in Brooklyn, including some who were subsequently convicted in the February '93 attack on the World Trade Center. We have had a long-standing problem with the way that we vet foreign nationals. And, you know, they're using the term background check indiscriminately or interchangeably with background investigation. Snowden, the shooter at the Navy Yard, had background investigations. People went out, they interviewed them, they knocked on doors, they interviewed neighbors. We have a program in place now, the Dreamers, and comprehensive reform wouldn't even involve a face-to-face interview with the applicant. These are simply paper transactions where we're going to give people, and we are giving hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens whose identities can't be verified, lawful status. So think of the huge national security implication to all this, providing foreign nationals who came in under the radar to conceal possibly their true identities and backgrounds with identity documents without the resources or the desire to actually go out and talk to anybody, including the applicant. This is a prescription for a disaster, even as the news media has focused on how do we protect malls in America after what happened in Kenya. The bigger issue is how do we keep people that want to kill us from entering the United States, because we don't seem to have the wherewithal or the desire to do something as fundamental as that.
Logan?
You know, it's interesting you mentioned Kenya, because less than 6 months ago, I was having lunch at the mall that was bombed in Nairobi.
It looked like a beautiful place.
Oh, it was a beautiful place. My son and his family lived in Uganda, and we, after visiting him in Uganda, we went to Kenya for a safari, and then just a little bit of sightseeing. But anyway, my wife and I were having lunch there. It was a beautiful mall. There were all these beautiful people. The Kenyans at the time were very upbeat. They were telling us how much they liked Americans, which doesn't happen in most of my travels around the world. Yep. They were also proud of the fact, and this is very important, that they had just had a contested election, and the election was decided by their Supreme Court, very similar to the Gore-Bush decision. And they had a similar incident about 5 years earlier, which resulted in riots and deaths, and it was just very ugly. This court made the decision, and there were no riots. The Kenyans accepted it. They were there with the rule of law. There was order, and the Kenyans were very, very proud of this. Now, to have this
rightfully so.
Yeah, and to have this happen, less than 6 months. First of all, I thank God that I wasn't there, 6 months later. But
Indeed.
Just walking through that mall, it is too close. I had been in, spent time in the World Trade Center before that was bombed by these people. These things are too close, and it doesn't matter. It's not just in America that we have to be concerned. It's in other parts of the world as well.
How would you have protected you and your wife had you been in the mall at the same time?
Well, because we're obvious Westerners, if they were there, we would have been immediate targets because they were targeting Westerners. And so there might not be much we could do, except run and pray.
Michael, is there anything different you could have I would have suggested? I'm going to tell you a theory. I actually believe this. I know Logan's going to think I'm off my rocker. I actually believe that the Kenyan officials became so outraged and angry of the humiliation and the embarrassment that their authorities could not get in that building. I actually believe that they may have used chemical weapons to finally resolve this, and because I can't understand why the building would collapse unless somebody can explain it to me. And I'm making this statement many days after things have been in some way resolved. There's just some things that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I don't know whether they set off explosives. We don't know what caused it. For all we know, the terrorists could have had satchel charges with them as the last stand kind of thing.
Well, we also know that they had grenades when they came in.
Yeah, so you don't know what set that off, if there was a huge explosion that they had set off. Did the military make use of that? I know that the Israelis sent some commandos in to try to help as well. Remember, you had repeated instances where the Kenyan government said, it's under control, everything is fine, it's over, and then kaboom, there was another big explosion and more gunfire after they made the statements that everything is under control. So I really don't know what was going on floor by floor and in the various parts of the mall. But I have to tell you, the complacency that we have in America is not deserved complacency, especially after 9/11. We were attacked in 1993, not once but twice, by foreign nationals engaged in terrorism. The Clinton administration did nothing to address the vulnerabilities. I was an agent at the time. Everybody, myself, my friends at the FBI and DEA and State Department, we all thought that that was the watershed moment when the government would look at the immigration issue from a different angle. In fact, I did my very first hearing back in May of 97 about visa fraud and immigration benefit fraud, because everybody knew that this is how the terrorists who attacked us entered the country and hid in plain sight. So we have this hearing 4.5 years before 9/11, and it did not translate into any meaningful change in the way we did business.
We'll be back. Don't go away.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Cross's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean. Only at a Golden Cross near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrossBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Logan, what do you think are the biggest issues facing our country today, which we should give our undivided attention to?
The number one issue I'm going to deal as a social issue, and that is the issue that I've talked about many times on the show, which is the number of pregnancies that are out of wedlock, the number of families in America that don't have men as part of the core family. This, in America in general, it's in the low 30% range. For African Americans, it's approaching 80%. These numbers over the past 50 years have increased from about 2 or 3% of Americans were born out of wedlock in 1960, and of African Americans about 9% to where we are today. Senator Moynihan, when he was at Harvard, and a very well-known sociologist, wrote a book about the African American community, saying this is a disaster waiting to happen. People who are familiar with the African American community 50, 60 years ago realizes that that was a relatively socially conservative community. You know, black people in those days believed that in order to get ahead in the world, they had to be not just equal to whites and do as well as white people, but they had to be better than whites. And so there was a lot of control in the African American community. If a girl got pregnant in these, the 50s, 60s, the father came out with his proverbial shotgun, found the young man, and like it or not, they got married, or at least, the young man had to be responsible in some way. That all began to change in the 60s and 70s. And it has caused a huge breakdown in the family, and that's had implications on education, on income, family income. For example, two people who make $25,000 each, a man and a woman, live together with their child. They're making the average family income, and they're not considered in poverty. But if it's a mother and her child making $25,000, that puts her in poverty. And, a lot of it is, having a coherent family structure. And so I think that's the number one problem in America. I think the number two problem in America has to do with the government financing or having huge deficits that we will never be able to pay back. We're imposing huge debt on our children, and personally, it's a fiscal irresponsibility that will keep us from growing fast and make our children's lives much more difficult than our lives.
Michael, what do you think are the issues that we should focus on?
Well, I think education is very important. I'm going to say immigration. I mean, let me just quickly put my website out in case your audience wants to go there. It's michaelcutler.net, one word, or capsweb.org, C-A-P-S, capsweb. Because I've been writing about this forever. We have millions of people in the country that we don't know who they are or why they're here. We're admitting more foreign workers than the number of jobs that we're creating. The Congressional Budget Office says that it costs 20 to 40% more to educate children who aren't English proficient when they enter school. This all has a huge impact on America and on the American dream. But it's also the educational system and the fact that because of problems with families, that too many people are now depending on the schools to not only educate their children, but raise them in many ways. We have to really revamp the educational system. And I have a thought that I just ran by a professor at City College. My son was an engineering student. He's an engineer, my oldest. My youngest boy plans to go there next year to study engineering. And I said to one of the professors, as students, we're taught how to answer questions. Why in the world aren't we teaching our children to become adults who can ask the tough questions? I think we really need to take a hard look at the way we educate our kids and how we deal with democracy in the United States.
Logan, what are the issues that America continues to do well on and that we should feel proud of that does not get enough coverage in the media?
Well, we are still the best place in the world for innovation. We're still one of the best places for business, although we are very quickly eroding the ethos that made us a great business culture, that made a private sector that was very strong and not only just creating jobs but improving productivity. But at this point, we still have among the best business cultures in the world. The other thing that we have, which is really great, is notwithstanding the problems we have in education at the primary and secondary level, we have unquestionably the best university education system in the world. One of the reasons why we have the best educational system in the world is that there is choice. You can choose what college, what community college, or what vocational school you want to go to. You're not forced to go to the college in your neighborhood. And a large number of the colleges are private. People go to colleges that are across state lines. There's no restriction on where you go to college. And as a result, we have a very strong university system, which much of the rest of the world envies, and they send their children here, their best and brightest students here to take advantage of our educational system, our university educational system.
But you know what's so funny? We're hearing from corporations and politicians that we should be stapling green cards onto those diplomas from foreign students so they don't take their skills back home. Most of our companies, in fact, are multinational companies. You know, this idea now is that Americans don't need to do well for America to do well if all we look at is how corporations do. But I have a better solution. Why aren't we doing a better job, even if necessary, of subsidizing American kids who have the ability and the fire in their bellies so they can go to school? So then rather than worry about foreign students taking their training and education back home, when Americans take the training back home, they go cross town, not cross the world. Don't you think that would be a better investment in America and American citizens who are coming into the work environment?
I think one of the things that's happened with American students and, younger Americans, Americans, in their 20s, 30s, is that they've grown up in an environment where anything goes. There were no strong guidelines, except guidelines that were PC. But, for example, nobody was stupid. Nobody was bad. If you were a poor athlete, you got a trophy anyway. We took some of the competitive edge out of America over the last 20 or 30 years, where Americans in my generation, you wanted to win. You wanted
Nobody wanted to come in second. Nobody wanted to come in second.
Nobody wanted to come in second. Yeah,
that's right.
And you know what? You wanted to be rich. The President of the United States 30 years ago didn't say, "Oh, those rich people were bad people." We admired people who were successful. Today, we demonize people who are financially successful. We demonize people who create businesses that create jobs. And we make excuses for students who want to pursue occupations and educations that don't have high value added. I think it's great to major in poetry in college, but what are you going to do when you finish?
Yep. Oh, I agree with you. But you see, most people don't have long-term strategic thinking either, just as our government lacks long-term strategic thinking. Politicians look long-term at the next election. And corporations long-term seems to be the next stockholder meeting, and when they have to produce a report showing the bottom line. But you're right. I think that success There's nothing wrong with measuring success in making money or being in a profession that creates businesses. Ethics are important, though. I think we have to have a strong basis in fundamental ethics. It's not, that the ends justify the means. But having said that, I agree. Success should be something that we should be looking forward to, not looking askance at. I think we've got things sideways.
Well, it's not that we have things sideways. It's the elite who wants to dumb us down, and they think that we're really changing, that we are not the people that we used to be. I think most Americans are decent, honest. They earn a living. Yes. They're not corrupt. They're not cheaters. They're not lazy.
Wait. Hold on a minute. When you say most Americans are not cheaters, look at the number of people in America who are on disability. Okay, the number of people on disability has tripled over the last 5 years. Now, do you think the number of people who have disabilities, they're not, they may not be personally bad people, but the system has evolved so that people say, hey, you know what, I can, I may not have a disability, but let me go after it anyway. I just may get it. Or how many people get in a car accident, which is a fender bender, and they end up calling a lawyer afterwards to say, hey,
disability. But disability is long-term.
We're out of time. We're going to let them keep talking, but we're out of good time. Good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Logan. Thank you, Mike.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live